Last year, we did just shy of 400 units, do close to about 225 million in sales volume. It's about an average sale price around 600,000. You just can't, just send out mailers and expect people to call, right? You got to have a full-on approach to, okay, how are we going to increase market share in that neighborhood?
You either know the people, right? You're from the market, you grew up there. If you didn't, you got to pay to meet people, i.e. leads, which a lot of people do that, but they don't do the follow-up to actually capture them. Or you have to go find it. Food Truck Fridays, open houses. But the intention is, like you said, it's a contact sport. So you either have it, you pay for it, or you grit through it. Welcome back to the Real Estate UnTucked Podcast. Today, we have an incredible guest, Scott Oyler. Oyler, co-founder and team lead of Oyler Hines Group, a Coldwell Banker in Cincinnati. Just kidding. I don't know how y'all do that. But I guess you won the national championship, so we'll let you get. Oh, hold on. Are you a Bengals fan with Dale?
No, yes, I am a Bengals fan. Dale's a Browns fan, though. Cleveland.
We have a mutual friend. One of his good friends lives in my market. We just kind of made a connection that way. All right, I'm back to it. A top 5 team in Ohio and a top 10 team nationally at Coldwell Banker Realty. With more than 15 years experience, Scott has built a business on relationships, strategic team building, and deep market expertise. Deep market, Wayne, not shallow shit. Deep market.
That's it.
Today we'll dive into how it's
last
built.
time I was in Cincinnati, we landed in a snowbank. That's all I know about Cincinnati. Is like last time I was there, I was like, I swear to God, we get one snowflake in Dallas and we're done. In Cincinnati, there's like, go for it. I swear, we just landed the plane in 12 feet of snow, and they're like, have a great day. And I was like, what are we? Yeah, there we go. That's my last memory.
I'm not done yet. Today we'll dive into how he's built and scaled one of his most successful real estate teams, the importance of SOI and past clients. Wayne, SOI, sphere of influence, in case you didn't know, and how he helps agents and teams across the different markets develop the right structure for long-term success. Let's get it. Scott, thanks for being here.
All right. Thanks for having me. Enjoy being here. Fun little fact, Wayne, when you land at the Cincinnati airport, I don't know if you knew this, you're actually landing in Kentucky. The Cincinnati airport is in northern Kentucky.
That's like when you go to Kansas City.
Yeah.
There you go. Well, I'll be back up there at some point. All right, give us a little idea just before we jump in. Give everybody a unhumble picture where you are right now, as far as like team size, what you're doing. Just kind of a little snapshot.
Yeah, so we've got a team. There's 22 of us between support staff and agents on the team. So of those, we have we technically have like 20 licensed agents, but a lot of those folks have licenses that are support. So, last year we did just shy of 400 units, do close to about 225 million in sales volume. It's about an average sale price around 600,000. Last year was a good year for us and trying to continue to grow.
And in most of that, how do you break that down as far as where it's coming from?
Yeah, so most of it's going to be past client and sphere business. We're a heavy sphere-based team. We're not I know a lot of large teams are big on buying leads. We're not one of those. We do have a little bit of spend that we do with Realtor.com. It's a small portion of our business. And then, most of it is, sphere and past client. And then we categorize, this is kind of an odd one, but we categorize as like neighborhood awareness. So we're big, we tackle a couple neighborhoods very aggressively.
Very cool.
And so it's kind of a hard way to categorize because we'll have, ads in the magazines, we'll have mailers that'll be going out. And so we'll always, we always ask, hey, where did you, how'd you find us? And sometimes they say, well, I've seen your ads, but I've seen your signs in that neighborhood. I've seen, so we're just like, how do we categorize that? All right, we're just going to categorize it as
I love that.
Neighborhood awareness.
Would you go there for a second? Then we'll talk about everything else. But like, how do you determine the neighborhood? And then what would be the list of things you're doing?
Yeah. So there are 3 key neighborhoods that we've got top market share in. And we've just been steadily growing. So in all those markets, we sponsor a lot when it comes to, so for example, Madeira, where I live, we're sponsoring everything, from everything from the schools, foundation, auction events to the boosters. And then what else is interesting is we actually, the building that we bought also dubs, so our real estate office here, and it's also an event space. So we donated a lot. So you have over the schools, the teachers do all their training over, in our space.
Wow.
We donated for that, for different, events. There was a bourbon tasting for Madeira schools to raise money for the Madeira Foundation. We donated for that. And as well as, the other markets that we're in. So same kind of thing, where our office is kind of these three communities kind of surround there.
Yeah.
So we leverage our space a lot as well. And then we do. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
Just keep going. I think you were going to continue.
Yeah. And then it's, the ads, there's always the magazine ad in the neighborhood. And then we do mailers as well in those areas. So it's kind of our farm areas that we try to go after. It's kind of a multi-pronged approach because we've had a lot of success in those areas. So then we double down in those areas. But what I always tell our agents, like when they on our team, they're like, hey, I live here, and I want to really get after this market, and I want money to do sponsorships and all that stuff. I'm like, that's great, but how involved are you? Are you, it only works
100%.
if you're out there, people know you, you're heavily involved in that community. You just can't, just send out mailers and expect people to call, right? You got to have a full on approach to, how are we going to increase market share in that neighborhood? And I'm a social person to begin with. I enjoy, networking, connecting, and most realtors do, right?
There are some introverted
realtors but so, I mean, that's the thing. You got to be plugged into that community, and it should be. It's like where my kids go to school. I want to support them and what they're doing. And that's people who we do life with, which makes it fun.
And I love this. Like that, you want to be omnipresent, right? It's like you, until people are like, I see you everywhere. Like you want to own that thing. And I think like it would be interesting. I don't know if you could speak to it, but like, it would be interesting to go, what's the ROI on an agent that's like doing mailers once a month and the one that's like doing what you're doing? Like my guess would be it's astronomically different in what that looks like.
Yeah. And that's what I would say. It's just a multi-pronged approach to how do you dive into a neighborhood. And there's another agent I know up in Dayton, Andrew Gadosh. He's big. He does his, neighborhood mayor, thing. And the same kind of thing, right? You're just involved in the community. And
are you doing any ads, like Facebook ads or anything like that? On top of it, or
we do. So in those areas, we do Facebook and Google Ads, Google PPC. We've dialed that back actually last year. What we realized is we are not great with like top of funnel leads. When we were looking, a lot of Facebook, Google PPC, very top of funnel leads. We feel like when we get the direct call-ins, right, that's a little bit different when they recognize us.
Yeah.
But we're going to go and do a lot of video content in those areas. We're going to do a lot of different things. And in our, we've been getting into this last year, we got into YouTube quite a bit, and we're starting to see the ROI on that actually.
For sure.
And that was something, we try to highlight those neighborhoods that we're heavily involved in, and that helps.
Well, Scott, when it comes to like, I know obviously you have 20 something agents on your teams. How can they recreate it? Right. Because I agents all the time, like, hey, I want to farm this neighborhood. They don't live there. Actually, they don't even have kids yet. Right. And it's across town.
Right.
Now, my theory is completely different. I would like to know if somebody's coming to you and said, hey, I want to farm somewhere, just guide me. And it's a blank slate. What would you tell them?
Yeah. So the first thing when someone wants to go after a neighborhood, I'm like, create a market study for me. I want to know what the market study is, how many homes turn over in that area, what's the average price.
This is crazy, Scott. You're telling them to actually do research and do math. Seriously.
Before any money is spent, let's just see if this neighborhood makes sense, right?
Yeah, right.
Not like, hey, I think this would be a good idea, right? So every time, and it's interesting because you know how bad they will want to do it based on the time they're going to put in the research, right? So someone puts in the research, and I'll say, don't just pick one area, pick three, compare the three.
Right.
How, who are the dominant agents in there? Is there one person that dominates that market? and then there's nobody else. Hey, there's great room for number two, like for another option. I mean, that's how, like for Madeira, for me, when we moved there was one agent that dominated that market. And then it was like everybody else. And I was like, all right, well, there's room for number two. And it didn't take long. It took about 4 or 5 years, and then all of a sudden you can take over that market. But it is. So first off, it's the market study. How many homes turn over? What's the average price point? Does it make sense to farm, that area?
And it's funny because I think, oh, sorry. Go ahead.
What are you going to say?
I think it's funny because agents, they want to go, you said your average is 600. So obviously your newer agents are probably 2s or 3s. And they're like, Scott, I want to go market this neighborhood because it's a $500,000 price point. But if they do the math, like you're telling them, I want more turnover. So I want to be in that $200,000 bigger neighborhood and just turn them and burn them, right? And not burn them, that sounds bad. But just, I want more volume turns. And they always have these big eyes. So it's like, no, go with the math. Go with the math.
Yeah, exactly. And then from there, you got to build out the plan of, okay, what are you going to do? And what are you going to do that you're going to be consistent with, right? I'll never forget the best piece of advice I got was from someone that was a mentor to me when I was trying to get into Madeira, and I passed this along to everyone is, I did every door direct. I had the same exact postcard that went out.
Yeah.
And the reason I was like, no, that's terrible. That's a terrible idea. Why would I send the same thing out every month? That's terrible. He's like, Scott, you're going to do it for 2 months and then you're going to just drop the ball. Right.
Yes.
So if you send the same thing, you have the same, postcard you're sending. And this was back in the day of, find out what your Madeira home's worth. And I'd send them to a landing page and, we build the email list and, and it was the exact same postcard every time. And it was the reason it worked out well is we overthink marketing so much. You want to have a great message that comes across, but it's the consistency, and that's the number one thing, right? And I'm sure you guys see it with your agents as well.
If you start a church, I'll go because you're speaking the gospel right now. So just so you know, I'm person one because it's so true. Like do the math up front, and then look for what is to have at least an 8 to 10% turnover rate year over year, whatever that number is for them. But what is that? And then can I do it consistently and make it? We can add bells and whistles on down the road. But make it simple enough in the beginning that you can do it consistently. If you want to add things on, cool, but what's the simplest thing that's going to get done? And I think that is so true. The consistency piece is what it's all about. And they get lost in recipe cards and all the other stuff that makes no impact. So back to Brad's question, I'd love to brand new agent, what would you tell them to do? 3 things, brand new agent. Let me back a little bit. Would you tell a brand new agent to start going after a neighborhood or not?
No, I wouldn't right out of the gate. So
yeah,
for us, it's heavy sphere. It's, how I built my business was based on relationships. It was never, the book, never, when I got into the business, it was coffee with someone, lunch with someone, a beer with someone. And what's the first thing, I went through it, and I know this sounds bad, but I made it, it all starts out. Everyone that comes in, 250 people, of who you know, and then you start highlighting who are my connectors, who are the people that know a bunch of people, right? And so those are the people you want to prioritize and meet with. And the first thing you do, hey Wayne, I haven't talked to you in a long time. Would love to catch up for a cup of coffee, lunch. Can I buy you a beer? Just want to tell you what I'm up to. Got some exciting changes. Sure. Get together. What's the first thing someone says? They lead into it, right? They're like, hey, what are you up to? We're like, wait, actually, you know what? I just started over at Oyler Hines, a Coldwell Banker. I'm so excited. I just joined this top team. Decided to launch my career in real estate, and it's getting belly to belly. It's old school. You can send letters out, right? So your brokerage or someone, they may send a bunch of letters out to everybody. No one's going to remember what you're doing, right? It's
your letter's worth 1 point. Your coffee's worth 1,000 points. You know what I mean? I'm not saying don't do the letter. Yeah. But I love that you have a plan. Hey, get your list of if I heard you correctly, get your list of 250, highlight the biggest connectors or the people you like the most, whatever. Go have a coffee or beer, whatever's with those people. I love the simplicity of it, but the specificness of that I think is wonderful. Do this, do this, do this. We're off to the races.
Yep, exactly. And people naturally want to help other people out, right?
Yes.
So as long as you present yourself like, hey, I've aligned myself here. Here's why. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take my experiences from whatever I did before, and all that. And then the other thing is I created, and I tell all of our agents this too, is create your like mini board of advisors, and think about your people that are connected and say, hey, you know what? I'm getting into real estate. I'm so excited. I'm putting together like an informal board of advisors of people that I can meet with on a quarterly basis to just pick their brain. You're in tech, you're an entrepreneur in startups, you're in, finance. I'd like to lean on your skills on that. And they feel like invested in your business. And it was like clockwork. It was like I could count on, 2 referrals, from those folks, because now they're invested in your business. They feel like, man, I'm going to help, I'm helping Brad out with his business. And I know it sounds cheesy. I know it sounds corny, but
not at all. Dude, if that's all somebody gets from this podcast, it was worth $10,000 or $100,000, right? Your 250 list, your top people, and then your board of advisors. Like, I love that guy. You do those 2 things. Don't worry about all the other crap. Do those 2 things, and then we can add on. That's
Wayne,
awesome.
I can go spend $2,000 a month and join a BNI group with other people that don't have business, so I can send them my business when I don't have it. But I can do that. That's easier.
I got to get my webpage up first, Brad. I got to get the wording of my website right.
Wait, right there. That was another great piece of advice. So this guy who was an entrepreneur here in town, I had coffee with him as I was building trying to build, and asked him, to help me out. And I was telling him all the things I'm doing. And I'm like, I'm spending a bunch of time on this website and all this stuff. And he was like, it's the biggest mistake. I work with all these companies. You need to be, it's a contact sport. You're in sales. You need to connect with people. Once he's like, what are you going to send people to a website? You have no sales. You have no track record.
No.
Like, get some sales under your belt. Start building. Now, don't get me wrong. Now we spend a bunch of time and effort and everything on our website. But, that's the whole thing is like connecting with as many people. Then you get those sales. Then you can start leveraging those sales. And then it's just a snowball effect right from there. But 100%,
I mean,
because the easy thing is to hide behind a keyboard.
Yeah, absolutely, right. Well, one of our clients, has a VA company, right? When we get to coach them, they've done they did, I think, 100 million, and their website was a page with a booking link. And basically it was like, we have VAs, book a call. And that was and they did 100 million with that was their website.
They have 7,000 people that can make them a website on staff, right?
Yes,
that's the funny
literally. Part. There was one button to press. You know what I mean? We just get so complicated and we hide. Sorry, Brad, go
Damn it, Wayne. I have a statement question, right? But I think that's what Scott's leading to is he's done the work to push them to the website, right? He's done the work. So when they see the postcard, it's a reminder. Yeah, it's passive as hell, but it's a reminder that you're still there because you've already made the active introduction. And that's what so many people forget. They want to go passive first, start sending postcards, and then I might meet them someday at Starbucks. And that's not how it works. They got to know you to be reminded who you are. So
right.
That was my soapbox.
Yep. And that's the thing. I think in this business, what's wild is there's so many different ways, right, to attack it.
Are there? I mean, seriously, are there though?
There are. I mean, I was fortunate enough that I grew up in Cincinnati, went to college. I mean, I had a good network here. If you were brand new into a community, that's how you got to look. Like, okay, so we had a guy on our team, Bryce, brand new to the community, didn't know a ton of people. And his strategy, like he was an open house warrior. He was going to work in open houses harder than anybody, possible. He loved the opportunities. That's how we recruited him on our team, because he was just like, can I hold anything open for you guys? Can I hold anything open? And he was, connecting with these clients. And then that's how he started building his business. Like, that's what I'm saying. There's all these different pillars, right? And like, you gotta, if you're, depending on your background, depending on, certain tactics, certain things are going to work better for other people. I think sometimes that's what's hard, right? We go to these conferences and we're like, okay, I need to be doing this. I need to be doing that. I need to be doing. It's like, just focus on like, one thing, do it really well.
So with
then
your
move
agents,
on to the next.
do you let your agents do a bunch of things? How does that work? Like, you're sticky, your agents are successful, you're doing a bunch of transactions. Like, do you give them the option of you can do whatever you want, or is it like these two are required? How do you do that?
Yeah. So when they come on, we do their business plan and we look at, okay, what are kind of your 4 main pillars that are going to drive business for you, right? It can be multiple different things. And like I said, we're not going to help out financially out of the gate with them, like as a partner, unless there's a really, really good plan or they've got a track record. If they want to go ahead, like we've got 2 sisters on our team. They started out on their own. They want to work their neighborhood. They have Food Truck Friday every Friday. They worked out a deal with it, and they've got a bunch of homes in that neighborhood. So every Friday, Food Truck Friday. They know they've got a minimum to meet, but because they market it so well to the neighborhood, the minimum gets met. They're not even buying the food. They're just organizing the food truck and having the cornhole boards out and all that stuff, right? And so as long as they meet the minimum spend, I think maybe one time they didn't hit it and they had to, take a little money out of pocket, but they came up with that idea. I'm like, yeah, let's do that. But that's the whole thing. You got to have all your different pillars. But what are your main focuses on where you're going to get your business from? We have people that are great with social media. We have people that hate social media. Am I going to force someone who hates to be on social media if that's not them?
Sure.
Because the only thing they're doing is posting about real estate and nothing personal, because they're not, then that's not going to work for them either, right? So there's different strokes for different folks, and it's trying to identify like what are your key strengths, like what makes you different, and how do we lean on those strengths to put together the right business plan for you.
Right.
But at the end of the day, they've got to want it. I think that's the hardest
really
part.
It. You either know the people, right? You're from the market. You grew up there. It's kind of like my business partner. You didn't, and you either if you didn't, you got to pay to meet people, i.e. leads, which a lot of people do that, but they don't do the follow-up to actually capture them. Or you have to go find it. Food Truck Fridays, open houses. But the intention is the physical, like you said, it's a contact sport. So you either have it, you pay for it, or you grit through it is the way. But it's all about meeting people. That's all it comes down to.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And you don't have to spend a ton of money. Like our budget now is obviously big as we've grown. You can do things that don't cost a whole lot of money. We do a bunch of client events. That's why we got our event space. But people don't realize before that, I was having people in my backyard, like just invited for beer. Hey, meet me at this brewery between this time and this time. First beer's on me, right? You don't have to make it real expensive. And the whole reason you're having an event or a party with Sphere, past client or whatever, it's the invitation. It's the reason you get a reason to pick up the phone and call them, right? So that's it with our clients. Like too many people want to talk to agents. They're like, well, I'm worried no one will show up. I'm worried. Like that's the purpose is to be able to call, say, hey, Brad, hey, it's Scott. I hope you're doing well. No one wants to just hear from their realtor and be like, hey, how's it going? No. Like if your insurance guy called you and said, hey, Scott, I'm just calling to see how your day's going. I'm like, dude, I'm busy. I don't,
it's weird.
Yeah. But they call and say, hey, Brad, hope everything's going well. I just want to make sure you got our invite to our pumpkin patch. Hope you can bring the kids, and then it opens up that conversation. That's the whole reason for that event, right? You want to love on them, shout them, but it gives you a reason to call those past clients.
The event is not about the event. So on that note, this is Untucked. So we like to talk about the big mistakes we made. What would you say was the biggest, if you're open to it, what was the biggest financial misstep that you've made along the way? Like, where do you go? Like, I wish I could go back and get that 20 grand. Or like, what would you say is one of the biggest like mess ups along the way?
I think for us, we spent multiple years lighting money on fire on Facebook, leads and where people were filling out for you, almost like felt like they were getting tricked, right? Filling out forums.
The foreclosure list and the this, that, and the other.
And Google PPC. So don't get me wrong, we still do a little bit of that, but it's much dialed down. We had huge budgets on that. And for some people, I think that works really well. You got to know who you are. And we just were not great. Those are top of funnel people that you're going to need to have the right systems and follow-ups in place that, they're going to likely transact 12 to 15 months later. It's rare they're going to transact within the first 3 months. And it's wild because Brad and I were both on Curator. It is funny how people that were in our database from some of these leads that we had, and then they end up eventually becoming clients, but it wasn't from the Facebook lead or whatever.
No,
and you look at like, oh my gosh, we had no contact with them for, other than like a terrible drip campaign, right? That everyone knows they're on a drip. But, I feel like unless you have a really, really good follow-up plan, an ISA, someone who's really working that really hard, it's just really hard. It's tough.
It seems to be the hardest, most expensive way to do it. And like you're saying, it's not that it's impossible. It's just, if I could have a list like you have, if I could have a neighborhood that loves me and everybody's going to work with me, why would I go chase the hardest, most expensive way to do it? Like, if this is an option, we don't need to pursue it all. And you're saying that, right? We don't need to pursue it all. Like, this is a better ROI on our money, our heart, our time, everything else. And it's okay to say no to this other stuff that isn't. Yeah.
Right. And that's it. Like I said, it works for some people. We just knew that for our agents, when those leads would come in, they were having better leads, right, through Sphere. Right. That all just took priority. They almost got, not spoiled is the wrong word, but when you're used to nice warm leads, and those are much more difficult. And it's like, unless you have that right system in place, they're just going to fall through the cracks. So there's a place for it, but you just got to have the right system put in place. We even had an ISA. We dabbled with it for a little bit, and we probably didn't give it a long enough period for our ISA, but we just realized like that's just not the team I think that we are. We had to take a look at ourselves in the mirror and say, what do we do well? What do we not do well?
Hey, hold up. Before we get back to the episode, make sure you like and follow us on social media and subscribe to our YouTube channel. It means the world to us. And don't forget to turn on that little notification bell so that you get alert every single time we drop a new episode. If you want to really go hardcore, go binge some of our past episodes, and please leave a 5-star review. All right, back to the episode.
Okay, if we don't do this well, are we willing to invest more money, more time to make it better? Or do we take what we do really well and spend our time and energy there? And we made that shift, and I think that was the right, was the right shift.
It's funny.
And I'll pause for a commercial break for a second because Brad and I do an in-person mastermind 4 times a year, right? We got one coming up, and if you're interested, go to the link, and there's links in the bio and all the other stuff. But like, if you're listening to this, because here's what I want to say about that. Too many people, and you kind of alluded to this, like go to events, they hear about these big things. Oh, we got they hear all these crazy things, but they don't actually know someone who's doing it well and have intimately got inside their business, right? So one of the things I think, and you've done a lot of this, Scott, now you go around and teach it all, but like, my challenge to everybody listening is like, get in small group rooms where people are having honest conversations and go, okay, tell me exactly how you're doing it. What's your exact ROI? What's, like walk this to know if it's actually working, because I think so many people are following the footsteps of something they may have saw online or on stage, but they're not actually following the footsteps of like someone who's really done it at an intimate level, which is why I appreciate the podcast and you sharing and everybody else. But like, get yourself in a room before you go spend $100,000 on something that you don't know if it works or not, right? Unless you just have the luxury of an extra $100,000 laying around you want to burn.
Right.
Whoa.
Right.
But even if you did, you probably should do it. It's like, get in E4, E5, get in the rooms, get around the people that are gonna have the real honest conversation with you before you go do the math.
Well, we had one at our event. I literally just got off the plane. She's got a database, 400 or 500 people. She wants to double her deals. She's doing maybe 20 or 30 a year. I can't remember the number. And we're like, where'd they come from? She's like, my database. But she was talking about, hey, can I go spend money to get another lead source? I need another lead source. Or just like Wayne said, put another $1,000 down on your own database. Like, I was like, when's the last time you called them? She's like, I haven't called everybody in a while. I was like, if the answer's in front of you, it's not hard, but everybody wants to make it so hard. But that's why Zillow, and we do some Zillow for our newer agents, but it's easy because the phone rings, I pick it up, and I'm like, hey, you want to go buy a house? They've made it super simple. They charge for it. Whereas when I was doing Curate with Scott, dude, I was spending $150,000 a year on leads, then the ISA, then my marketing and my time. Like, it just wasn't, and I felt like we were doing well, but it was like 6% capture. It was horrible.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's
Where are you
where
gonna get your 15 advisory board, right, Scott? And like, well,
that's
there's
right.
30 transactions
That's right.
that like cost me a coffee a couple times a year. Like the ROI on that's pretty. I mean, you spend $5, you made 6,000. Like I'm not good at math, but that seems legit to me.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And that's how we always say too, like, especially connecting with clients, like, social media is just as much about listening as it is posting and all that stuff. So like, that's the other fun thing that we do is like, you can make sure you're commenting, make sure, that's a good way to just stay in front of people, but then surprise them. Like, so we have in bulk, so we're Oyler Hines. So our tagline's like OH. So everything's like, oh baby, oh yeah, oh, like, so we send out these onesies, like when our clients have kids, the little onesies that say, oh baby, we got them in light pink, light blue, right? So you see when they come up, everyone posts when they have their baby, right? It's like, boom, ships out, they get it, they'll post it back on social media. So it's just, some people are afraid to put themselves out there, but you have to remember social media is also about listening too.
That's a good point. So if we're cool with this, let's pivot, because you've built a successful team.
Yeah.
A lot of people think they're next.
I don't know, maybe.
You've been doing it for a while. So a lot of people think that the next step in their evolution as a realtor or real estate agent is, I got to start a team. So if somebody came to you and said, hey, Scott, I'm thinking about starting a team, just like you said, go get your board of advisors. What would you tell them to do? And what have you learned that you could share with somebody that's thinking about?
Yeah. So it all comes down to like, why? Why do you want to start a team? And I feel I've had people directly ask me, they'll say, hey, I want to start a team. I want to learn how to make money off of other people. And I'll be like, you're going to be a terrible team leader and you probably shouldn't start a team. Because if that's your why you want to start a team, that's probably not a good why. When I teach this class for a Coldwell Banker, and it all starts out with, I didn't set out to just go and start a team, right? What ends up happening is you start to build your business, and, you get into this business and your phone's ringing all hours of the day and you're growing it. And so once you get to about 30 units, that's kind of the magic number, right? Where it starts to get, a little crazy on your personal life and everything. And so once you're able to get there, the biggest mistake I see with people is they're like, hey, Brad, you're an agent, I'm an agent. Let's go be a team, right? But really, we're still two individuals doing the exact same amount of business. There's no leverage. And I can't believe when I go around, they're like, I meet with some of these teams and I'm like, oh yeah, there's 5 of us on the team. Okay, who's the transaction coordinator, the support? Oh no, we all do our. It's like, then really you're 5 individuals calling yourself a team, right? You're not doing any different business. Yeah. So the first hire, I always tell people, is like, you get to about 30 units or so, and then you have to hire, whatever you want to call them, client care coordinator, assistant, whatever you want to call them, your administrator. And so that's your first hire, because you're just trying to get some leverage, right? Of how can you multiply your time. Yeah. Probably the best book I just read, Dan Martell, Buy Back Your Time.
Dude,
it's an unbelievable book. It's so good.
That is so good.
I wish I would have read that earlier, because sometimes we hire for roles versus like that was a good piece. But so always say, first thing, hire the your admin or whatever to allow you to do more business. Take all the paperwork, everything off your plate. So now you're freed up to do what you do best, and that's meet clients, show houses, go on listing appointments. You need to be out meeting with people, because what ends up happening is, right, you're starting to get business, and then you stop going on those coffee meetings and those lunches, all the things that got you those 30 deals, right? You stop doing those because there's no time to do that, right? And that's why we see the cycles in the business. So, first you have admin. Everyone's like, I don't know. What am I going to have them do? It's like, oh my gosh, CMAs, transaction coordination, title sheets, anything that is not a revenue generating activity, right? And, if you get the right, I'm fortunate, Heather, who's still with me. Gosh, 14 years, first person I hired. She's the only reason we have grown to where we have. Number one reason is her. It's not me, because I'm ADD. I'm all over the place, and she keeps us organized, right? So that's always like the first thing is make sure, like, do you have enough bid? Because if you're just gonna hire another agent, you're not really a team, right? So first, get yourself some leverage, and then that next step is a buyer's agent. And that's where, for that particular, that's kind of where you really become a team, right? Now you're three people. And I think the biggest, the get wrong in our business is like, people just want to work with you. They only want to work with you. What people want is like really, really good service, right? So people get nervous about hiring a buyer's agent because they're like, well, but they want me. I'm the man. Like I'm we all have big egos in this business, right? Like they all want me. And but they want great service. And if now all of a sudden you're doing 60, 70 deals, when are you having time for your family? When are you getting back to people promptly? Are you really giving them and delivering them the service? That's why you want to get a great service, because that's how you're going to get all those referrals. So
it sounds like you're saying like you should start a team when you have more business than you can handle. You shouldn't start a team to get more business. Like that doesn't happen. A lot of people think I'm gonna start a team to get business, and really it's I've got more than I can handle. My people are not getting good service now, so I'm gonna hire people, and you just keep dishing it off. But that way you hire who you need.
That's correct. That's because
a second ago you mentioned a mistake you make with hiring, and it's probably more on the operations side. What was that you were hinting at? Do you remember you said one of the mistakes on hiring as a bigger team?
No, I said a lot of people, the mistake they make is they just hire another agent and not hiring
support.
But I've made more mistakes than I can possibly count, and I've learned a lot. The biggest thing I've learned when hiring people is you get what you pay for. Whenever I've tried to go cheap, you're much better to pay a little bit more and get the right person and invest in the long term. It's like right now we had no intention of hiring an intern, no intention at all. And she's a junior at the University of Cincinnati, reached out to us, and I'm like, hey, we're not hiring. She was persistent. She sent me an email saying all these things that she could do to help us out, like taking the extra. I'm like, okay, I don't really know what we're going to have her do, but I'm going to invest in her, right? Because she's a really, this is someone now I'm like, okay, we want to have her in our organization. These are the kind of people we want, right? So it's investing in really good talent, and it's hard to find.
What have you had to do to get good at being a leader? What's the one or two things you think you've done to improve your leadership lid, or being a leader that can bring them in and do well with them?
Yeah, I think, what's hard is, not everybody wants to be held accountable. Some people do, some people don't. And I realize I was never that great at that. I was more of like, hey, we're buddies. It's just kind of the leadership style that I think that I had. And I know that what I've had to do in order, because some people really want to be held accountable. They need it in order to grow. Yeah. And a lot of it's like, asking, hey, do I have your permission? Are you someone who wants to be held accountable, or do you not? Ask them that up front. And I think that's one of the things that I've learned is, and if they do, then it helps out those conversations to, hold them accountable. Do you remember all the things we set out at the beginning of the year? All the, in our goal planning, what you wanted to achieve, I'm going to try to help you get there. I may push on you a little bit, and I've had to be better at that, at having those harder conversations, which I was never very good at and still need to get better at. But what I realize is that some people don't want to be held accountable. Some people do. And those that do want to be held accountable, they're the ones that are like, I want to get somewhere, and I want you to help me get there. Yeah. That's why I feel like we had some people that come to our team, because they're like, this is, they could go somewhere else and get a much better split and all that stuff. But they're coming here to say, hey, I've been doing this and I need to grow. And you guys have a nice playbook in order to do that. Great. Well, here's how we're going to get you there. I've got to also have your permission to hold you accountable so we can try to achieve this, together. And so I'd say that's a big thing where I've had to improve on. I was very lucky when the first couple of people that I hired, the first couple of agents that were just like super motivated. I mean, I didn't have to, no rah-rah speeches. It was just, they got it. They wanted it. But so for me, that's probably been a big thing. I'm constantly trying to improve on leadership, because I was just a dude selling homes. Heather and I talk about it all the time. Like, remember when we were just selling homes? Now it's like, we
took the hard route.
HR decisions and
exactly. Yes.
Having to let people go, and like, that's no fun,
No.
So
that's the side a lot of people see. Like, they think they want to do a team, and like, okay, so who's going to pay the 401ks and who's going to do the PTO and who's going to do all this stuff? And they're like, no. I'm just going to pay them $10 an hour, and then they do it. And you're like, not quite at all.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You gotta like really to really have a successful team. You've got to be in for that, because I'm still in production. I still sell, and it's hard to balance the two of selling while also making sure you have the time.
That's one of my questions. So I have 48 questions left, but I'll try to squeeze one in before Brad takes over again. What real estate is notorious for burnout, right? And overwhelm and all this stuff. What do you think what are you teaching your agents that are helping them stay motivated, or how do you stay motivated and engaged long term?
Yeah. We talk about this a lot because it's a tough business, easy to get burnout on. And that's one of the things that I think it's a little bit different with our team is we really try to set an environment that, you're going to hustle, you're going to run. When you're on vacation, you're on vacation, you're recharging. We got you. Yep. We're going to have you covered. Yep. Also, our agents on our team, we've also been teaching them leverage. So we have 3 agents that, are selling north of 45 homes a year. We've worked with them to now we've got them some leverage. They have showing assistants who they're bringing up in the business as well. So, for example, Laura's a good example. Laura's been with me for a long time. She's grown her business. We hit, her financial goals are good. And then, she wanted to get a horse. So we knew that was a big thing. She was into horses growing up. And then she's like, I got this horse, but I got no time to ride. I got no time to ride him. All right. Well, how are we gonna create time to ride the horse? Right. We need to probably get a little bit more leverage. Let's get you some help and showings. She's mother to 2 young boys. Get mom guilt for being away. All right. We're going to get you some leverage. Right. So that's how we worked with the showing assistant program. She doesn't miss any of her kids' games. The team knows on the days when she's riding. So we know that's an important thing for her personally. And we communicate about that. So I think that's the thing is you still, like Bryce, he's another one that the same way. And so he has a showing assistant as well. And we know that he loves fly fishing. So he'll do these trips where he'll go, quick getaway. Mondays are normally the slowest. We know Monday he's in Tennessee or something like that. Fly fishing, goes down for Sunday, come back, Monday night, Sunday, Monday, kind of thing. So we really try to set it up. It's not perfect. Don't get me wrong. People are still, but what's the point of making a bunch of money if you can't enjoy it with the people that you love the most? So many people get into this business, right? And they say, well, I got into this because it's flexible hours. Well, we all know that to make money is not so flexible, right? They think they're going to have more time and everything in the family, but what ends up happening is you're grinding, and your family is taking the brunt of it. And so that's where, we want to make sure that, you're able to have a good work-life balance, which is very hard. But I know, like for myself, our team, I've made certain decisions in our business, or I've hired certain people or whatever that I've said, okay, is there going to be a return on this? It may not necessarily be a return dollar amount to our bottom line, but it's on time.
Yeah.
and for me, it's worth it. So I got to a point, I had a developer client and we needed to be there for all the showings. And when I hired this guy, it finally got me out of weekend. It just finally got me out of weekends. I know that sounds bad, but really at the end of the day, it was like, for me, I work with our sellers and that's my main focus. Not all of our sellers, but a good portion of them. What I'll do, my team knows typically in the summertime, Friday afternoon, we take off to the lake. My family, we take off to the lake, come back either Sunday night or Monday morning. That doesn't mean that I'm not taking phone calls because I can still negotiate listings and everything, over the weekend. So it's still, the family's still dealing with the phone calls, but not physical appointments. And if someone wants to meet on a Saturday for a listing appointment, I will look at it and say, okay, am I going to do this one? Or I'll say, hey, I can't do Saturday. I get this date. They say no. I say, great. You know what? Bryce on our team, he's an awesome listing agent. I'm going to get you connected with him. Blah, 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 blah.
Absolutely.
And it's taken time to get to that point. It's not easy and it's hard to give up business, but my girls are 14 and I only have so much more time left with them. And, sometimes it's not always about the bottom line. Your time is worth so much and we undervalue our time.
Absolutely. And you earn the right to do that too, right? Like you've built a business that you can say no to. And that's
correct.
Honestly, it's what everybody wants to have. So
I think that's probably that's the hardest part. Like our showing assistants that are on our team, they're the ones, and newer agents on the team. It is a grind. Yeah. Because they have, you just got to get it going. But then once agents have hit a certain, point, right? Yeah. They realize, okay, I don't have to grind as much. I can work and train other people and help build them up so that they can go and do the exact same thing. That's what we want to do in our kind of junior agent model is they're getting mentored by one of our top agents. And then the goal is in a year or two, they're going to go off on their own, on the team or off on their own, but they've got great experience. They learn and they got, what's hard in our business is, they got pretty much salary because they're getting a percentage of someone who has a proven business. So we interview them here's their business, here's the percentage you get. So likely this is what you can expect, through the year.
So can you take 3 seconds? And I know we only have 10 minutes, 8 minutes left, but will you take a minute or two and just break that down real quick? Cause that sounds really intriguing.
Yeah. So for example, Laura, so we walk them through the math. We know what Laura's done the last 3 years. She's very transparent. Here's a number. Laura's an agent on our team. One of our top agents. Okay. So bring in the recruit. We show her Laura's numbers for the last 3 years of what she made. Then she gets 5% of the GCI on her deals. And that actually comes out of Laura's, side. Doesn't come out of our side, but it helps Laura get some leverage so that she can do more deals. Right?
Interesting.
Then what happens is then they're on a much lower split than what Laura is on. So Laura then gets a 15% of any business that they generate, right? And so that way Laura can, because Laura's getting paid to mentor them and everything. So the more business they do and generate on their own, she wins from that as well for mentoring. And then if they roll off on their own, Laura will continue to get for the first 2 years a piece of their business for spending the time mentoring them and guiding them. That takes a little less time off of my plate from training and mentoring. And what ends up happening is folks get a really good education. Yeah. And they know going in. So for example, we just hired a new one for Laura. So that person knows they've got about a guaranteed close to $40,000 guaranteed, not guaranteed, but based on prior production. Yeah. So now you can quit that other job or not do real estate just part-time. And I can learn from someone and start to develop my own business as well. Man, so that in a year or two, I can roll off.
Freaking good.
That is a good one.
Brad, is that as amazing to you as it is to me? I love the way I've seen bits and pieces to put all of that the way together you have. That is freaking gorgeous.
Yeah.
I will send my 10% to the church as soon as we get done, Scott, so we can get that rolling. I'd like to come every Saturday night and we can just have a quick service. No, that is amazing. I love how you have that locked in. That's beautiful.
It's not perfect. It's hard. It's really hard to recruit in that position because people that get into real estate, that person a lot of times is going to talk to someone else, another brokerage, to go on their own and get offered some crazy split, because they're, at 5%, someone's like, why would I do that 5%?
Yeah,
but it's like,
here's 100% of nothing. Good luck. Yeah,
exactly.
Have fun out there.
But it's like, hey, look, and you're going to grind. We tell people it is, you are, when Laura calls you, you got to be ready to go.
Yeah.
It's a grind. So it's not like you're on call, essentially, but it's a great way to get your foot into the business because so many people don't take that leap because they can't have any guaranteed income.
Correct.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yep.
All right. I think that's where we should end this thing. Cause that was there were like, thank you, Scott, for your time. Cause literally there were like 12 different nuggets in there that if anybody just got one of those, that was so worth their time. So thank you for like having the heart of just wanting to give back and help agents, seriously. Cause I think that, I think we all align on that. Like we just don't want to see people suffer for the sake of suffering. Right. It's like,
exactly.
And you just want to go like, hey, I hit my head on this wall for 15 years, or here's the way to get around it, whatever it is. So so seriously though, thank you for having that heart and seriously doing the work to figure it out. Cause like to have a model like that, I know it's not perfect, but that tells me you probably tried 27 different versions,
right?
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Along the way, you know what I mean? And you eventually get there. So it's like, just freaking listen and go like, if that's what works, the best so far, just freaking go do what works. So yeah, thank you for being with us. Seriously.
No, I enjoyed it. I appreciate you guys having me on here.
Sure. So if people have questions or comments for you, we'll have your social down below. They can DM you. But if anybody's got referrals going to Cincinnati, Oyler Hines, going to take good care of your people. So that's good. And then if people are still looking for a little network to get into, they can see our link tree to our next events that Wayne and I are throwing. And other than that, Scott, have a great spring market, dude. Good to see you. Thanks for being here.
Good to see you.
Rockstar,
Appreciate it, guys. Thanks so much.